Artemisia annua is a dangerous plant, but it's been used in China for 2,000 years to treat malaria and is still grown by farmers in Africa. And it's not easy to find.
Artemisia annua is a pretty plant. It's highly effective, but banned in France.
Artemisia only seems dangerous to those for whom malaria is their business.
George, do you say it is possible to eliminate malaria in our lifetimes?
The eradication won't be easy. We'll do it region by region, and then as that map shrinks and shrinks, we'll eventually get to the hardest part, which is equatorial Africa.
Today we are going to show the ramifications between our food industry and our pharmacopoly. And more importantly, why each of us is at the center of the big picture, but has also the power to change things and for the better. Modern science isn't science, but scientism. The media tell us to trust the science, but real science is not about faith. Real science is a method of investigation or thinking and is never settled.
Our intelligence says that it's going to be very hard for Hillary or any other candidate to really have a profound impact on drug pricing.
I think physicians and the public have come to believe that drugs are much better and much safer than they really are.
Dr. Howard Pomeranz is a neuro-ophthalmologist at the Hofstra Northwell School of Medicine. He's authored dozens of journal articles and says many studies are written by academic researchers fraught with conflicts of interest.
In some cases, it sounds like it's nothing more than advertising by an employee that works for a drug company.
It is, and I think that's often the way you have to look at it.
Over the next couple of decades, they began to treat the researchers as hired hands. They would design the research themselves. You know, you can do a lot of mischief in how you design a trial. Or we'll test this drug and we'll tell you whether it can be published or not. And so if it's a positive study, it's published. If it's a negative study, you never see the light of day.
In 2009, she wrote an article that famously declared it is simply no longer possible to believe much of the clinical research that is published. The current editor-in-chief of the British journal Lancet, Dr. Richard Horton, wrote a scathing editorial saying much of the scientific literature, perhaps half, may simply be untrue. Science has taken a turn towards darkness. From 1992 to 2012, taxpayers shelled out $58 million to scientists whose papers were later retracted due to misconduct.
What do you see as the potential risk or peril of doctors reading these journal articles that may be fraught with conflicts of interest or may be inaccurate?
It ends up that a lot of us end up getting bought by the pharmaceutical industry.
The drug companies portray themselves as great successes in an independent and free market. They say, look how wonderful this is, look at all the drugs we make. At the same time, they are on welfare, big time. They get government-granted monopoly rights, patents, exclusive marketing rights. What we do now, what we've found that it's profitable to do is to pretend that the drug companies and the medical schools are in the same enterprise. That what we're both trying to do is to come up with innovative, important new drugs. And that's simply not true. The drug companies are investor-owned businesses, and their job is to come up with the most profitable drugs they can and to maximize their shareholders' interest. That's what they do.
Science is being suppressed for political and financial gain. COVID-19 has unleashed state corruption on a grand scale, and it is harmful to public health. Politicians and industry are responsible for this opportunistic embezzlement, and so are two scientists and health experts. The pandemic has revealed how the medical political complex can be manipulated in an emergency. Here is what one of the largest and highest cited publishers in the world wrote in March 2021. There is now abundant evidence that the involvement of pharmaceutical companies corrupts medical science. It is not just that there is a body of medical science perverted by industry largesse. Pharmaceutical companies do their own research and smoothly integrate it with medical science, taking advantage of the legitimacy of the latter. In 1984, Dr. Rellman became the first editor of New England Journal of Medicine to require authors to disclose financial ties to their subject matter and to publish those disclosures. He later came to suspect that simple disclosure was not enough, and his policy involved to excluding all authors with financial interest from writing large educational reviews. The times ahead are going to be spectacular, as we will have to erase close to 100 years' worth of research.
U.S. states are suing 20 pharmaceutical companies, accusing them of inflating prices and quashing competition from generic drug makers. The complaint says Teva Pharmaceuticals USA Incorporated organized this scheme, which the plaintiffs call, quote, one of the most egregious and damaging price-fixing conspiracies in the history of the United States.
To summarize what you just heard, the influence of pharmaceuticals operating for profit and what is too corrupted peer review systems, college education, and the scientific method as well. Amid the turbulences caused by the dying old model, we see the emergence of fungi and microbiome studies, which are poised to entirely rewrite biology as we know it. What is happening to the planet and our bodies have the same origins. There is no difference between the poisoning of the biosphere and what we do to ourselves. We have lost the ability to think in terms of regeneration and work in sync with the environment. In 2016, Nature magazine released the shocking result of its own investigation. 1,500 scientists lift the lid on reproducibility. Survey sheds light on the crisis-rocking research. More than 70% of researchers have tried and failed to reproduce another scientist's experiment, and more than half have failed to reproduce their own experiments. The headline of this article is not doing justice to what you are about to hear. A 2015 analysis concluded that as much as 89% of animal studies could not be reproduced, a fundamental step used to confirm the validity of scientific results. This amounts to a staggering 28 billion wasted every year. In 2014, the British Medical Journal found that even the most promising findings from animal research often fail in human trials and are rarely adopted into clinical practice. Should we fail to adopt a radically different mindset towards science in general, we will not only just keep repeating history, but fall into digital colonialism as described in our previous video, Nature's Intelligence. Our goal today is to send a strong message in order to prevent this from happening. Neither should we expect any big pharma apologies to support naturopathy. Ultimately, the pharmaceutical industry is a global monopoly that many insiders and professionals will try to defend just for the sake of their own reputation. Society eats too much of just everything. The Pharmacopoly became such a despicable monster as it essentially profits from poor diet and gluttony. The good news is that the intermittent fasting buzz has gone viral and could even help regenerate the environment while bankrupting Big Ag and Pharma. This is our chance.
Our body is made to fast and is made to feast. And I will convince you tonight that you should be fasting and feasting as well. Eating is an energy-consuming activity, but most of us don't think of it like that. You just think that all that eating is going to go right in and do me all that good. A lot of energy that goes into it. Eating is dangerous. It's true. Eating is dangerous.
The benefits of intermittent fasting are definitely huge. It promotes brain cells, stem cells, growth hormone stimulation, rejuvenation, inflammation, and cancer cells removal. We clearly cannot afford dogmatic science any longer. The Petri dish era and the germ theory are done. We need a new kind of science. A science based on the fact that the planet is a giant organism. And the terrain theory explains all that. Critics of alternative medicine want to float the idea that Big Pharma can be reformed to avoid the scandal of the millennium, but whistleblowers know that the solution is to end competition in research, fueled by incentives, and recognize that collaboration is what will keep the field trustworthy. And that alone is a huge piece of data exposing the fallacy of the system itself. The more we compete to make ends meet, the more we spread servitude, because such a mindset disconnects from nature, which wants us to remain interdependent. Individualism is against the laws of nature. Money represents the circulating information. It has no value in itself. It is pure abstraction. Education and empathy should not depend on a dominant construct dictated by materialistic worldviews, nor bank accounts. But for the heart to express itself, there is no other way round. Monetarism has to be terminated, and for the sake of our civilization. The brain is a decoder of emotions, but real emotional intelligence is always initiated by the heart, which hosts around 40,000 sensory neurites, in other words, brain-like cells that can think independently and have the upper hand at the condition to welcome the heart-brain connection to take place.
And what's really extraordinary in this moment in time is that medicine is going through a paradigm shift that is profound, and it completely is forcing us to reimagine biology and disease. How things work. What are the laws of nature when it comes to our human biology? Because that system doesn't approximate reality. We are focused on symptoms and not causes. We're focused on the symptoms, not the system. We're focused on organs, not the organism.
What is considered scientifically possible is largely defined by the materialist paradigm, which ignores an ever-growing body of conflicting evidence. Beyond this paradigm, some researchers do expand the possible, opening us to promising horizons of discovery. The harsh truth is that scientism embodies the synthesization of nature because the latter is not copyrightable and thus less profitable if not patented. Now that we know how to end this nightmare, it is our duty to take action and recognize nature's intelligence as demonstrated in our previous video. Thank you so much for watching and spreading the word far and wide.